Sounds like he's in a lot of pain.
Nah, he's probably just seen he hasn't got 100% trophies on Final Fantasy 15 now, the DLC's out.
Why?
Yep, sounds like it.
Oh, come on, I don't feel
I've not got time for this. I've got so much to label. What's the matter?
I hate this new office.
What are you talking about? It's a great office.
We've got no microwave, we've got no kettle, we've got no fridge.
Yes, but we will have those things and it will be better.
And in the meantime, what am I supposed to do with this? Have you any idea what that tastes like at room temperature?
No.
Like medicine.
Look, why don't you do the Friday feature, take your mind off it, yeah? How about 7 sequels that change settings but for the better or something?
Good idea. Here are 7 sequels that changed their setting and became totally different games, but better games. Our first entry is Jak 2, a game that astonished everyone when it first arrived on PS2 back in 2003 by packing up the colourful, kid-friendly presentation of the precursor legacy and emptying it into Haven City, a grimy concrete sprawl of packed slums, gas-guzzling hover vehicles, and governmental oppression. Most of us were expecting a Crash to Crash Bandicoot 2 style sequel, you know, basically the same but newer, prettier, and with a few extra characters. What we got was a stunning maturity, both in terms of tone and character. Jak went from silent boy hero to angsty adolescent wielding guns, jacking cars and not shaving, while the story was less about saving the world from pantomime evil than liberating the city's oppressed population. And Haven City was undoubtedly the star at the time, especially for a traditional platformer. This shift was massive. And it needed to be, because this was a time when audiences were maturing, with Jak 2 embracing that by giving us an open world we could explore and shoot at, and generally just misbehaving, and also a lovable, wisecracking animal sidekick that proved the series hadn't forgotten how to have a laugh. Because some things never change, annoyingly. Our second entry is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, a game that revolutionised the series by taking the action outside the confines of military bases made almost entirely of grey corridors and setting up shop in a Soviet rainforest during the Cold War. The time period changed things almost as much as the setting did as well. In the 60s, they didn't have magic radar technology that pinpointed the location of every guard and their line of sight. How did they ever cope without that technology that we definitely have now? So instead you had to constantly change your camouflage and face paint to blend in with the surroundings which were bigger and more open than any we'd experienced in Metal Gear before. Now you're hiding in trees, in long grass, in muddy swamps. In fact, the game does such a good job at rewiring your stealth instincts that by the time it does shove you back inside again when you get to Groznygrad, you're looking at those corridors and thinking, well, now where do I hide? You feel horribly exposed in an environment that in previous Metal Gears you'd have just been like, another corridor with some guards in it. Plus the rainforest forces you to survive rather than just sneak about. Become injured and you'll have to patch yourself up before you can fight effectively using whatever medical supplies you find lying around. You'll need to eat too, which means knifing the local fauna and then getting it down your neck before it passes its rot-by date and poisons you. Lovely. Now, before we move on, I know many of you will be typing in the comments, where's the Metal Gear tally? And the answer is nowhere currently, because we don't have a whiteboard yet. I mean, we don't even have a fridge yet. So it is coming back, the tally, but for now you just have to make do with me scribbling in this notepad the amount of times I've mentioned Metal Gear in a Friday feature, okay? It's loads. I've mentioned it loads. Our next entry is from a series that changes its setting as often as I change my sweater, about every 2 years or so. Assassin's Creed. We've had the Crusades era Holy Land, we've had the Italian Renaissance, the 18th century American colonial frontier, France during the Revolution, Victorian London. But the setting change that shook things up the most was, for me, the Caribbean Sea of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. This bolted on what felt like an entire new game. Sure, you still had the sneaky bits, the stabby bits, the follow inside the circle or die bits, but now you had naval battle bits taking place on an open world ocean the likes of which have still never been bettered. Look at those water physics, look at them.
Oh, it's so rolly and wet. I feel seasick just looking at it. Great.
Building your crew and becoming the most notorious pirate in the entire Caribbean was phenomenal fun, and it wasn't just about pillaging other ships. There was so much to explore and uncover. Tiny paradise islands hiding long forgotten treasure, harbour towns full of seamen drunk on rum, and the freedom of being in such a massive, beautiful open world. It didn't have the grubby denseness of Syndicate's London, or the stretching architectural grandeur of Assassin's Creed 2's Venice or Florence, but there was something about existing in the sun-bathed tropical waters of Black Flag that just felt right.
It's like being on holiday while cosplaying a pirate. Amazing.
Next up, remember the feeling when you played Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare for the first time and realised you weren't in the middle of the World War II Normandy beach landings, but instead were battling through an all-new setting of remarkable freshness, otherwise known as present day.
It was amazing how that shift in aesthetic, in tone, in weaponry just made you feel as though you were playing something completely new.
Obviously it helped that Modern Warfare had an awesome campaign, one that still holds up now if you go and play Modern Warfare Remastered, but prowling through various locations across the globe as part of an elite SAS squad felt electric. The guns bristled with power, the locations were haunting and real, the present day setting adding a relevance and an impact we just hadn't felt before. In fact, if you look at mainstream shooters over the past decade, you'll see the influence of the original Modern Warfare has been enormous, with Battlefield 1 the first shooter in ages to go back and explore a historical setting on current generation consoles.
Battlefield 1 could have easily been this entry now I think about it, but let's diversify. Let's have, for entry number 5,
another first-person shooter, although admittedly, BioShock Infinite is not your everyday FPS. This has science and weirdness, and an ending you need a PhD in theoretical physics to fully unravel. What it also has, in the city of Columbia, is a setting that takes the series as far away from BioShock and BioShock 2's Rapture as possible. Literally, the latter was way down at the bottom of the ocean. Columbia floats through the clouds. Rapture was dark and oppressive. Columbia is light and oppressive. Rapture was a hellish dystopia.
Columbia was also a hellish dystopia, but the difference in terms of look, feel and gameplay was just remarkable.
Rapture was a ruin, a fossil. You uncovered it and explored it after the fact. In BioShock Infinite, you're in Columbia as the ruin happens. You see it fall from grace. It's a city that's alive and lived in. It's bright and busy and full of conflict, and as such means that Infinite feels completely different to BioShock's 1 and 2. Plus there's the speed of the game. The sky rails are transformative, adding a dimension to the gunplay that was previously non-existent. The areas in which you do battle are huge and open. You're able to swing to new platforms and change your approach, but then so too are your enemies.
Then you've got Elizabeth, who adds multiple dimensions to the gunplay, literally by ripping them open.
And pulling additional ammo and or bits of cover out from parallel universes. Infinite shares the same sciencey weirdness as its predecessors, the same overarching sense of dread and terror, but the change in setting flips everything on its head. Our penultimate entry this week is Batman Arkham City, the sequel that basically said, oh, so you liked what we did last time, did you? Have some of this then. Some of this being a dense, detailed, intricate open world that let Batman be Batman more than any Batman game ever. You could freely glide around Arkham City and perch on rooftops and do that cool, moody thing with the moon in the background that only Batman can. But it still had the intense, bone-cracking combat, focused detective detective bits, fan-pleasing boss battles, and an encyclopedia's worth of DC lore for you to uncover.
It felt like the game Rocksteady had always wanted to make, and with the success of Arkham Asylum finally had the confidence to.
The argument over which is better, Asylum or City, has raged across internet forums for years now. Many prefer the condensed focus of Asylum and how it's perfectly designed to allow Batman to play with all his wonderful toys, whereas others love the freedom offered by City. Whichever side of the fence you're on, there's no denying this setting change for the sequel totally shook things up and proved that when it comes to open world traversal, you absolutely cannot beat jumping off the tallest building you can find and then gliding about the place like hot justice wrapped in rubber. Time for our final entry now, and as far as dramatic gameplay shifts go, the leap this sequel took is like when colour TVs came out for the first time and we could see red, blue and yellow as opposed to grey, and light grey. Grand Theft Auto 3's Liberty City is the foundation upon which the culture-devouring behemoth that is present-day GTA has been built. Before 3, the series was like a naughty secret you talked about in school. Hushed whispers of, "Round mine tonight, my parents are out, we can squeeze in at least 3 hours of top-down pedestrian murder," emanating from classrooms full of 12-year-olds who'd stolen it from an older sibling.
It was almost slapstick, wasn't it? You'd play GTA not for any kind of story, but because at the time, it was the only game that let you be bad.
Liberty City, the series' first foray into 3D, was where things got serious. I mean, the game was still full of wacky eccentricity, but visually, this was a bold leap towards reality, a declaration of cinematic intent. Plus, the scale of the place and the sheer amount of stuff you could do in it was, at the time, completely unheard of. The open world template GTA 3 popularised has become so prevalent now it's almost a cliche, but if it wasn't for this game, this place, this Liberty City, the gaming landscape would be vastly different today. You only need to go back to our first entry, Jak 2, to see the influence GTA going 3D had on the medium. Like the city itself, it was vast. So, can you think of any other sequels whose shift in setting has shaken things up quite this much? Let us know in the comments, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, watch another one by clicking one of the links on screen, and subscribe for more of these videos every Friday. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.